Welcome to Nonprofit Impact on meetadvisors.com. I'm your host, Megan Dugan-Bassett of Dugan-Bassett Consulting. On Nonprofit Impact, we share great tips with you on what works and what doesn't from leaders in philanthropy, public policy, and direct service organizations. Today, we're welcoming a guest from Lydia Home, a faith-based organization that works to protect children when their families can't and strengthen families. Our guest is Sherry Arthur, Director of Development at Lydia Home. She had a successful career in sales in the internet world and switched over to the nonprofit world about 5 years ago, and now is just doing a fantastic job as the Director of Development at Lydia Home. Welcome, Sherry. It's really great having you here.
Thank you, Megan.
Lydia Home Association has been around for a while. Can you tell us really briefly what are some of the social services that Lydia Home provides?
Well, we started back in 1916 as an orphanage, so it was two women in their neighborhood who realized that there were kids that weren't being cared for. And then as times changed in America and orphanages went away, we turned into a residential home. So we care for kids who have been removed from their families due to abuse and neglect. They live with us. Our youngest child right now is 7. They stay with us through the age of 17 when they then age out of the foster care system. And so we have 42 kids that are with us currently. And we also have a high school, so we do a Lydia Urban Academy for kids who have dropped out of traditional Chicago public schools. And it's accredited, they actually get their diploma, it's not just a GED. So we have 30 students that we work with in getting their diploma, and then we have this program called Safe Families. And it started about 10 years ago with our executive director. The goal there was to actually recruit families to volunteer to care for children. They go through the same kind of process that a foster care family would go through. They're not paid. And a mother actually voluntarily says, I cannot take care of my child right now, maybe due to the fact that she's going to go to prison or alcohol or drug treatment. She might be homeless. And so she contacts us at Safe Families. We place her child in an approved host family. She doesn't lose her parental rights. We work with her to help her get back on her feet. We care for her child, and hopefully the children are, reunified with their parents. And last year, I think 94 or 96% of our kids actually ended up going back to their mother. And we serve just under 1,000 kids just in Chicago. That program's now national, so we're in 75 cities across the country. We also are very strong in the United Kingdom, and we're opening in India and also in Africa. So the big thing is, it's a worldwide problem, and it's trying to stop, the abuse that might happen, and give people a respite and a chance to get back on their feet and care for their children, to not have them end up in the residential care facility on the other end.
Right. Well, that sounds amazing. It just seems like it's really important work, and you guys are, making that happen all over the world.
I think the cool thing is, our executive director has he's a clinical psychologist, he's a doctorate, and it was his working with the kids in the residential care unit and the thought of how can we prevent this from happening, so that we're not treating the after effect, but we're doing, we're trying to give kids the advantage of never ending up there on the other side. So, it's really powerful because it's,
preventative approach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's taking kind of a different twist, not treating the problem after the effect, but trying to prevent the problem from ever happening.
Right.
So, I've been with the organization for just about a year, so I started last January.
Okay. So you come from a different background.
Right,
So
not a not-for-profit background.
Yeah. So you've done sales for internet startups, had a successful career doing that. So you have a different approach. When we met, you mentioned that you had taken the benefit in a different direction. What did you decide to do differently with Lydia Home's annual benefit?
So I came in from a very different background, from a sales marketing background. I always developed a new territory, traveled a large territory. And so my thought was I'd always been very interested in the not-for-profit world, done a lot of volunteer work, been on advisory boards or women's auxiliary boards and planned fundraising events and had done all of that. And I thought, I'm going to use my skills that I developed in my career as a sales rep, and I'm going to turn it into raising money for a cause that I believe in. And I kind of sat back and I thought, what do I like to do? Like when I go to an event, what kind of event do I like to attend? And I think the tendency in the not-for-profit world is to continually doing like same old, same old.
Yeah.
And especially when you work with an agency like Lydia that's been around forever, and people have these certain expectations, and they always have their benefit on this day, and it's always at this location, and it always works this way. I kind of came in as the new girl, and I said, we're not going to do it that way anymore. And so the first thing, I believe it's really strong. It's very important to look at numbers. So we started running a lot of reports on, we have all these people who attend, but how many people, truly give. And we have to keep in mind that this is a fundraising event. Right. So no matter how deeply people care about the mission or the work, unless we get money, we can't do the work. So I kind of made it more, sometimes more difficult decisions based on cold hard facts and not just emotional decisions like these people have come every year and they're going to come again. So the number one thing we did is we decided we were going to dramatically reduce our guest list. And we weren't going to serve dinners to 700 people. We were going to take a very select audience that we believed would financially support us, and that was the very first thing we did that was huge. So we went from 700 guests, I think, over that the previous year to 400 guests this past year. So the interesting result of that was we doubled our profit.
Wow, that's unbelievable.
And we raised more money with 300 fewer attendees. And I think, again, the thought always is the more people you have, the more money you raise. And it's totally false. Right. We did a lot more analytical looking at our data on all fronts. So we always did those, like quarterly campaigns, asks for money. And again, I'm like, I hate getting those in the mail. And most people pick them up and may glance at them and then set it aside, and very few people actually act on them. And when we started looking at the data, we realized there were several times we had actually done that where we had lost money. Oh, wow. The money that we brought in didn't cover the cost of that mass mailing and the production of the piece and everything else. And so that's another way that we just looked at the numbers and said, we're not doing this anymore. So sometimes I think it's the luxury of coming in and being new. I think, change is always very, very hard for people, especially, again, when you're dealing with an agency where people have gotten used to, things working a certain way. The other thing we did with our benefit dinner, we always hosted it in December. We moved it up to September. And, we had people this year call us saying, when's the benefit? I didn't get an invitation. I was like, oh, it happened 3 months ago. But, it was really important to connect with our key donors. And so I went and met with each of those donors individually. I told them the changes we wanted to make. I asked for their support. And, I went to the board of directors. So I didn't just do this in a vacuum and decide, I'm going to shake things way up. Right. But, really got approval and commitment from key people. And we did a lot of different things at the event as well that I thought were fun. That, for instance, again, usually you go and there's the raffle ticket. And whether you pay for the event or not, the first thing when I get to an event, I don't want some kid to ask me to buy a raffle ticket. Right. And so we did away with that. We did a wine roll. So we had people donate wine, and the bottles of wine ranged from $15 up to, we had several bottles that were over $100. And it was, I think, $20 a wine roll, and people
So what
loved
does that
it.
mean? Like, what did
So
you do?
you threw the dice. I mean, you paid $20. You threw the dice, and you were guaranteed you won a bottle of wine, and whatever you rolled matched the number on the bottle,
Okay.
and that determined, whether you. But you got at minimum a $15 bottle of wine.
Yeah.
For $20.
Yeah.
So it was like a no lose, and we ran out of. We could have done the wine roll all night, but we ran out very quickly. So it was a huge. People loved it as opposed to buy a raffle ticket. So it's just kind of changing up a little fun things, and again thinking we don't always have to do things the way we've always done them in the past.
So how do you feel you got more money from fewer people? What did you do specifically, do you think?
I think it's very important today for people to feel real committed and connected to the actual, work that's being done.
Right.
And so we did have an incredible speaker. We had Steve Pemberton, who grew up in foster care. He's the Chief Diversity Officer at Walgreens. Walgreens is a great corporate partner of ours. And so he knew some of our students, took the time to get to know us, didn't just come and, give a speech. And we had some really compelling stories from one of our residential kids who went on, got a full ride to a very exclusive private school out in Connecticut. And so it's bringing those stories of success and the impact that people's investment have on these kids' lives, that then as a attendee, you can't help but want to be a part of that kind of change.
So did you get more money in the actual ask at the benefit?
Right, and the other thing we did, and I was a little nervous about it, we did an actual, we always have the envelopes and the donation cards, but we also did kind of like a real-time ask. So we put the call out to raise a certain amount of money within the next, 15 minutes, and people could see, they could give on their cell phone.
Okay.
And so they could see online real time how we were meeting that goal. And it got to be a very dynamic, people were cheering. We had one gentleman walk up afterwards to really put us over our goal. And somebody asked me afterwards, was that staged or planned? And it totally was not. But, I think it was kind of the excitement.
Yeah.
People heard the story, they made the connection, and then they got to be part of the solution. And then doing it kind of in a live setting, it was fun. I mean, I think my big thing was I wanted people to feel like they had fun, that they didn't go to an event and it was like an obligation.
Right.
And I said to many of my friends who I asked to attend that go to a lot of these things, I'm like, I guarantee you will not regret that you came. And I don't think anyone regretted it. It was a very powerful evening, and I think, the stories, the testimonies from these kids, and then, just being in a fun environment. And I do think a smaller, more intimate setting helps too.
Yeah.
It's hard to be one of 700 and feel connected.
Yeah.
So, we really are looking at changing up a lot of, what we've done. And even this year, at the end of the year, we did not do the Christmas mass campaign, Ask for Money. We did a little video that compiled kind of like the year in the life of Lydia. And we did an email blast, and it was almost like a Christmas card. And I looked at that probably, I don't know, who knows how many hundreds of times. I never got tired of seeing it. And I think, again, I'm looking at it how I would feel if I got that in the email versus a 2-page, letter from us in the mail that said, here's our, year in summary.
Another one. Like
another
in
one.
a pile of money that you have.
Right, exactly.
Right. All right, well, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
For this is really helpful and really, really great. It's been great having you.
It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks so much for joining us. Look for more inspiring leaders on Nonprofit Impact.